This is The Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. With your host, Tyson Gifford and William Roerick. Episode 107, recorded May 11th, 2017. Hello, everybody, and thank you for listening to The Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. I am your host, the editor-in-chief of TV Enthusiast. My name is Tyson, and joining me today, as always, is my co-host here at TVE, William Roerick.
Hello.
So, today we are going to be going over some news, then we're going to be talking about American Gods Episode 2, and then we'll talk about what's coming up in the week ahead, which isn't a lot this week. This week's a little dry. But let's get started with some news. So right off the bat, I'm going to start with some cancellations in the last week. So Sleepy Hollow was canceled by Fox after 4 seasons. That's a series that fell off very quickly in its second season. I'm kind of surprised it lasted this long.
I didn't watch a last Sleepy Hollow. Well, I didn't really watch it at all. But the consensus from people who did follow it that I talked to says it fell off hard. I think sometime in the second season.
Oh yeah, it entered charmed territory in the second season.
Gee, it's
it was like a really solid show, and then it was straight up cheesy charm shit in the second season. It was how did this happen?
New showrunner or something?
I don't know. Yeah, it just completely fell apart. I don't know if it recovered from that. It was such a bad fall apart. I just washed my hands of it. But that ended. Timeless ended at NBC, along with fellow time travel series Frequency and Making History, which just means time travel's it was a big trend. We talked about it a few times about how time travel is a huge trend this season. Did not take off.
Nope, people said no to time travel.
So I'm not really sad Frequency's gone. Timeless I'm kind of mixed on. It's I think Timeless was an okay show, but I'm kind of actually I think the talent involved in Timeless was better than the show. So it's almost a good thing. It's freed up the resources for those people to do better stuff.
Right. It'd be like if Bryan Fuller was stuck doing some mediocre show that you didn't particularly care about. It'd be
not necessarily a bad show, but just a waste, you know?
Yeah, just a waste.
So, Timeless has its Eric Kripke, the creator of Supernatural, and Sean Ryan, who did S.H.I.E.L.D. and a bunch of other stuff. So it's the two of them together, and Timeless is just okay. It's not, and there were some legal issues with it too. NBC was being sued.
Oh yeah.
By somebody that said they ripped off their idea.
I wonder if you could also blame it on the network too. Maybe it's codified because of NBC. I know people point to Hannibal as I think Hannibal was the exception to the rule.
And Hannibal got more weird and esoteric as it went on, as the ratings dropped, but it kept getting picked up again because it had all this funding coming in from Germany. And as it kind of became this thing that NBC just kind of let air late at night and they just didn't care about.
Right.
It kind of opened up into its true self and became super esoteric and trippy, and that's when it really flourished, is when it wasn't doing well.
Bryan Fuller realized he could pretty much do whatever the hell he wanted.
Yeah.
As long as it didn't violate, network censorship standards.
Yeah.
And even then he danced around that line.
Yeah.
Not only danced around it, but openly mocked it. So, yeah.
I remember when he sent out a tweet saying that the kaleidoscopic, lesbian sex scene, he actually got a letter of appreciation from Standards and Practices.
Yeah.
They actually wrote him a letter, congratulating him on how much he was able to get away with.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Oh, jeez.
Also canceled, Emerald City at NBC, your favorite show.
I know.
I'm looking forward to it so much.
So heartbroken. I still don't know why you refuse to talk about the show on the podcast. Every time I bring it up, you're just we're not talking about that. And I'm why? We got nothing else to talk about. Whatever.
Here, I guess we'll talk about Twin Peaks and all that crap.
I guess we'll just have to talk about American Gods.
Game of Thrones and
way less exciting than.
And the last show that was canceled is Son of Zorn, which was on Fox. So of those, all the shows, I think I'm saddest about those two.
Son of Zorn always looked like something I wanted to like. I really want to be into that, but I just watched the trailers and the commercials, and the humor didn't work for me at all.
Yeah, it's not going to work for everyone. I liked it. I liked Making History a lot more, so I'm really sad that's gone.
Conceptually wise, I was pretty digging it, but execution wise, I just couldn't.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I ended up enjoying it quite a bit. Like I said, though, I think that and Making History are the two I'm going to miss on this list. The rest, I mean, Sleepy Hollow, I'm kind of surprised it was still on. Emerald City, good riddance.
yeah, good riddance. That was straight garbage. I'm glad that was put to a quick, merciful death.
Timeless Ending opens up some really strong resources for other shows possibly in the future. And Frequency was just kind of, I really liked the movie Frequency. The series the character was just kind of not, you couldn't like the character. The character is very unlikable, and it just made it hard to enjoy the show.
Yeah. Also, CW canceled No Tomorrow as well, which,
yeah. Oh, I didn't announce everything that was canceled. There's a ton of other stuff that was canceled. I'm just kind of talking about the stuff that seems more interesting to what we talk about.
You know what's interesting? Something I don't think we ever talked about this. We certainly never talked about this network on this podcast or this site, but it goes unspoken, unsaid that WGN in recent years had been seeing kind of a sort of renaissance as a home of scripted television. They've been doing these critically acclaimed scripted dramas. They had actually lined up a few more, like Scalped was supposed to, an adaptation of a comic adaptation. They're probably most famous for Salem.
Yeah.
You heard of that, right?
I'd say, I've watched a few of the WGN shows. Manhattan was okay. They kind of seem to me almost like a low rent AMC.
Right. Well, I guess the big news with them now is that they're actually getting out of the scripted drama game, and they're actually going to do, according to the network's direction, they're going to do more lower budget scripted as well as reruns, which is interesting to me with the whole trend, because we've seen in recent times a lot of networks get into doing these AMC, or HBO style scripted dramas. That seemed to be big. Now we're seeing a network that jumped into that wholeheartedly, sort of pulling away from that, pulling out.
It might be a good idea just because, like I said, they kind of came across like a low rent AMC.
Right.
Like everything they had kind of seemed like a parallel of something AMC had, but not as good.
Right.
And that kind of, I think, hurt them a bit. It might be a good idea to kind of go into the lower budget range, because everything's going so high budget. And, with Silicon Valley, with, not HBO, but like Netflix and Amazon and stuff getting in and starting to really invest heavily in scripted content too. And now like Facebook and YouTube are doing it. With all that money going in and stuff, like you're gonna see this dropout of this kind of the mid-range kind of budget, shows. And there is room for that, I mean, you can go like really ultra niche with low budget, and you could do some interesting things if you handle it right. It's always just going to be a matter of how they handle it.
I read lower budget to mean not focus on quality so much, not
well, lower budget. You're always going to have there's always going to be a quality trade-off.
In this context, I don't think they're concerned with making quality. I think they're concerned with making cheap shows that they hope will get buzz to go alongside their reruns, because now they're going to run more reruns. I just thought it was interesting, because I thought maybe it's a trend that maybe, because we talk about this concept, peak TV, and I thought, is this a consequence of peak TV? Is this peak TV claiming its first victim?
Pretty much, because there's so much television now, and everyone's trying to get into the scripted content game, and there's some huge players in there with lots of money, and channels like WGN can't compete. Channels like AMC got in like right at the right time, where they have like a brand identity now, because of Mad Men and Breaking Bad. People like, they see like, oh, a new show to AMC, and it means something.
AMC used to be a channel you go to watch old movies with commercial
westerns
breaks.
And stuff, yeah.
Yeah, mostly westerns, or like Halloween on Halloween, you know, it used to be like that channel.
Yeah.
And now it's like, but now when you bring up AMC, you think of The Walking Dead, you think of Breaking Bad, you think of Mad Men. They did a really
Preacher, yeah, lots of stuff.
They did a really good job of creating a brand around original content, that to the point where it's no longer American movie classics, because that's no longer the focus of the channel.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just the initials now, and the initials don't necessarily mean anything.
Right, exactly. So yeah, they were one of the first cable networks, I think, to invest heavily in that type of scripted dramas, whereas before that, only HBO or the premium paid channels were really investing. HBO more so than anybody else. You gotta give it to
FX. FX is the one that really kind of started the breakout for the non-premium channels. FX was doing it.
That's true. FX was doing it first. Yeah. So you got
AMC kind of copied what FX was doing, and then like after that, then you just had like a whole ton of different channels like popping in, and like Spike right now is trying to do it. Spike's getting involved in it. Yeah, Spike's got, they have an adaptation of The Mist, based on a Stephen King book. There's been a few films based on that, I think. So they have that coming. They just picked up, Shannara Chronicles, which was a MTV series. Now it's gonna be on Spike, that makes more sense on Spike than it would on MTV,
Right.
But yeah, so you're seeing like movement in that direction for like Spike right now. The right time to get in was right when AMC was doing it though. Like FX had already done all the heavy lifting, and AMC popped in, and basically they took shows that were like meant for HBO, because I think both Walking Dead and Mad Men were both in development with HBO, and then HBO went nah, and then both went to AMC, and they kind of like ate off of it. HBO's plate. They were like at the right place at the right time with the right amount of money.
Right.
and they were able to kind of jump in. Now is a really bad time to kind of jump into that unless you can compete with like what Netflix and Amazon are doing.
Right.
If you're a Silicon Valley startup, then you could compete on this level, because you're going to have billions coming in, and you can just kind of keep spending and not worry about making a profit yet. But if you're like a channel that's been kind of consistent and, it's just aired mostly in a local market and now is national or something, it's not necessarily a great time to really kind of invest in huge TV, because there's so much competition.
Right. Oh yeah, exactly. It's crazy. The amount of competition.
You might see some more stuff failing, I think.
I think so too. I think that was the most notable, because they were starting, I think they were beginning to create a reputation. They were starting, their shows were beginning to have some notoriety. It seemed like they could make it, but then all of a sudden, like, and also it just seemed like the turn was sudden. Like they literally just canceled their highest rated drama that they've ever had on that network. I think it was called Outsiders.
Is it Outsiders or Underground? Those are the two I know that are really popular.
It was Outsiders. This one's about bikers. It was about bikers.
Well, not bikers. It's like
Appalachians.
Men. Yeah, it's Appalachian Mountain Men.
Yeah, Appalachian Mountain Men. Shows how much I know.
It does. You're thinking bikers because it looks a lot like kind of has that Sons of Anarchy kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, it has that vibe to it. Yeah, exactly. That's why I think. But yeah, that was literally like their highest rated drama, even to date, compared to what they aired in the past. This was rated higher, and they pretty much like out of nowhere. And then they kind of announced, okay, we're done with this stuff. And it's like, wow, okay, that just.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You're gonna see that. Yeah. But moving on with some of the news, we've talked about cancellations. We talked about a network basically failing. There have also been some good renewals, or some big renewals renewals. The ones that kind of are relevant to what we've talked about before and stuff. 13 Reasons Why was picked up for a second season by Netflix. I haven't finished the first season, but it's based on a book, and it seems like there's supposed to be closure at the end, so I don't really know. It's one of those, like, where's a place for a second season on this? But I haven't seen the whole season, so I can't say for sure, like, oh, this doesn't make sense, you know? I don't know if there's a bunch of loose ends left for a second season.
I have no idea. For what I heard, I don't want to spoil anything. For what I heard things. I'm not saying anything, though.
All I know is that, you know, I know the structure of the show. I mean, right from the very beginning, it's not really a spoiler, but there's, you know, a girl who's dead, and she's basically telling the story of what led to her death. That's all supposed to be kind of closed out by the end of the season, so I don't really understand where it's gonna go from there. I haven't seen the whole season, though, but I mean, it's really popular. It's caused controversy.
I don't know specifics of what they do, but there is stuff that they can latch on, that apparently they can latch on to for a second season.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some loose ends and stuff. It's just a matter of, like, is it going to have the same impact? You know, like, it's kind of one of those things of, like, you know, like after The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, you have the kind of ancillary material from Tolkien.
13 more reasons why. The other 13 reasons I forgot to mention the first time around, so.
Yeah.
So there's a second tape.
Jotted them down quickly in a notebook and hid it, and nobody found it until season 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Also renewed for another season is Gotham at Fox. Did you ever stay with Gotham? I knew you were trying to kind of finish the first season.
I never went back. I never, like, fulfilled my promise to go back to it either. But, like, when good TV just keeps coming and coming and coming, and, like, I'm like, oh, I could go back and watch Gotham on Netflix, but you know what? Like, Legion is on, and The Magicians is on, and I'd rather spend my time with those shows.
I keep hearing people say, like, oh, it gets better and stuff like that.
And now American Gods is happening, so...
Every time I watch, like, a trailer, I see a trailer for, like, a new season of Gotham or something. It's like they're doing the same shit that I had issue with and from the very beginning. It's like, you know, oh, we don't know what to do. Here's 10 more villains. It's like, oh, God. It's just, it kind of, it's overkill. It's ridiculous. And, like, I just don't see that there's, like,
eventually
a good execution there, you know?
Oh, shit, we ran out of Batman villains. Here's some Flash villains for no reason. Oh, shit, Lex Luthor comes to Gotham. You're going to do with his kryptonite ring. It's like...
Yeah, that's another series. It's like Sleepy Hollow. Like, I lost faith in that series so quickly.
Yeah.
At least with Sleepy Hollow, like, the first season had me, and then it lost my faith. But Gotham, like, by the first episode was flawed.
If I had the balls to do that, if, like, they brought, like, fucking Darkseid on it for, like, out of nowhere for no reason, I would actually go back and watch it just because they had the balls to just go that insane with it.
But they'd be trying to make him, like, gritty and realistic, which would work.
I know. Speaking of Gotham, though, the similar show based on Superman, Krypton, was picked up by Sci-Fi officially.
I have that in my notes. I was getting to that later.
I figured bringing it up next to Gotham because the two shows conceptually are so similar to each other, and they're both DC shows based on DC's two popular characters.
Yeah, Krypton got picked up by Sci-Fi officially for series. I'm not interested from what I've seen.
No, I'm not interested either. It's like, oh, it's like, man, it's like a Batman show without Batman.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know, like, it looks so much like the Krypton from, like, the Man of Steel, universe, you know, from those movies. So it has that kind of, like, weird, I heard
it's supposed to be canon to the DCU movies, which is okay. That's gonna be a first for a DC TV show, I guess.
It's just, I don't see much reason for it. It doesn't look exciting to me at all. I see what they're trying to do. They're kind of trying to do what, Caprica did with, like, Battlestar Galactica. But, like, Caprica had, like, a world that kind of seemed real, and this just seems, I don't know. It just, there's nothing that holds me on it.
And now it's going to come on and it's going to be preceded by that god-awful logo every single time.
But some other renewed shows. The Last Man on Earth got renewed at Fox. I'm excited about that. I really like The Last Man on Earth. It just had its season finale. It's Making History and Son of Zorn both got canceled. Those are Lord Miller shows. This is another Lord Miller show. So I'm glad at least one of those made it. Last Man on Earth is probably my favorite of the three, so I'm really glad that made it through. And iZombie was picked up or renewed by the CW for a 4th season. I'm excited for that as well. I continue to enjoy iZombie. It's been really good this season.
Yeah, I'm glad that they renewed iZombie. I mean, I need to get back on that train. I know I kind of tapped out mid first season.
You're behind on so many huge series.
I am. There's like this is the problem with peak TV people. There's like so much of it.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to keep up. Like it just keeps coming rapid fire. So even as, I can't say, well, I'm done with this, I'm going to go back to no, because like as soon as Legion ended, or almost as soon, like American Gods Kate, and now Twin Peaks is coming back. And then after Twin Peaks, there's going to be something else. It just keeps coming at you, and there's not enough time in the world to watch it all, but damn it, we do our best.
So, we have a show returning that this is another like big trend that's been going on, is you have these shows that have been gone for a long time returning. Heroes did it, wasn't great. Prison Break did it. I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know if it works or not. I've heard that it doesn't. Twin Peaks is doing it next Sunday. Not this coming Sunday, but the Sunday after. Arrested Development did it years ago, like it had come back after being canceled for a while. So now the new one that's coming back is Psych, but it's coming back as a TV movie, like a holiday special movie, which is great because they're not overplaying their hand. They're just kind of coming back for like a little one-off thing that's just going to be fun. Did you ever watch Psych?
I watched Psych before. I didn't watch it all the times. Like I caught the odd episode here and there. Very funny show. Very entertaining. The two leads are very likable.
Good chemistry on that show between the actors.
Oh yeah, between the actors. I definitely, it's one of those things where I didn't go out of my way to watch it, but I watched it when it was on, and I definitely enjoyed it. Whenever I caught it actually being on, I would leave it and I would watch it, and I'd be thoroughly entertained for the entire time I watched it.
Yeah, Psych was one of the shows back in USA when USA had like all these really bright and happy shows.
Yes.
now most of their stuff's kind of dour, but they had kind of, people call it the Blue Skies era of USA. You had, Royal Pains and Monk,
which actually helped to make USA unique at the time, because at the time it was everybody else was going more dour with their programming. USA's programming was unusually cheerful even for the time.
Yeah, lots of really fun shows. Burn Notice was like the MacGyver remake we've been waiting for.
Yes,
not the one we got from CBS later.
Not the actual MacGyver remake. Jesus, they should just bring Burn Notice back too. That show was awesome as well.
But Psych was I really like Psych, so I'm looking forward to that coming back. It's going to be a holiday TV movie on USA, and pretty much the whole original cast is going to be
like,
back.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of a surprise. And pretty much the entire original cast is back for it. So
yeah, so that's going to be something special.
It's going to be awesome. There's also some new series in development that got announced. Judge Dredd Mega City 1 got announced by IM Global Television.
I have no idea.
Obviously doesn't have a network yet. This is just a development company.
Production company. There's a Deadpool animated series on FXX being created by Donald Glover.
That's not the same thing. I'll get to that, because that's actually been ordered.
Oh, okay.
So that's not just in development.
Okay, I didn't know. Okay, I know that's been ordered because they announced it's on FXX, but it's a new show that they had just announced. But you're right, I didn't make the distinction.
But the other show in in development that got announced was Night Flyers, which got announced by Sci-Fi. Night Flyers is based on a novella by George R.R. Martin.
Well, that's right.
Of Game of Thrones, and it's kind of like a space set man versus computer story, kind of like a 2001 kind of type of story.
They're probably gonna adapt everything George R.R. Martin ever wrote into like a series.
Well, Wild Cards is in development too, so
yeah, Wild Cards is. I'm pretty sure the letters George R.R. Martin sent to Marvel Comics in the 60s are currently being adapted into a film somehow.
He sneezed one time. It's being adapted.
Yeah, they're gonna adapt that.
Then we have shows that have been officially picked up now. So, we got a lot here. Ghosted. It looks like it's going to be a funny show. It's coming to Fox. It's a paranormal comedy, but it stars Craig Robinson and Adam Scott. So it's like them, like, going into haunted houses and stuff. It's a sitcom.
I could dig this.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great
This
premise.
looks like it could be really funny.
Yep.
And I love Craig Robinson and Adam Scott, so they're both really funny. Black Lightning got officially picked up by the CW.
Yep.
Berlanti, Arrowverse.
Not surprised. I don't see, although I'm starting to wonder where CW is finding time on their schedule for shows that aren't part of the Arrowverse.
I wonder if they're gonna eventually spread out and do like a 8 to 11, cause like big channels, well here's the thing, network channels, you have the actual, channel that like the CW, NBC, Fox, like that, but then there's also the affiliates, which is where you're actually watching it when you're local. So like for me, I think Fox is like KTTV, and so CW is like KTLA, so that you have these affiliate channels, and the affiliates, they own everything that kind of airs most of the time on the channel. Like when there's reruns and stuff like that, or the news, that's all the affiliate channel. And then the broadcast channel, like the NBC part of it, is primetime. That's what you get from 8 to 11. And then some of the channels, they'll have like, ABC and NBC and CBS will have like late night parts, NBC goes another like 2 hours after, and CBS goes like an hour after with their late night shows. So I wonder if CW is going to go 8 to 11, because most networks do 8 to 11, but CW and Fox don't. CW and Fox just do 8 to 10. So
right.
if they're getting all these new shows, and they're picking up not just, more of these comic book shows, but they've been picking up just a lot of shows in general, and they haven't been canceling many of their shows. So I wonder if they're prepping to switch to that, to a 8 to 11. I mean, it would make sense. It would give them an extra hour every day to work with. So, and they also don't do anything on Sundays, which is another night where, some channels do stuff and some channels don't.
Yeah, maybe they can finally find some room on Sundays for these shows.
Yeah, but then they're going to be competing with, the HBO, like, big shows and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because those are always Sunday.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
HBO kind of owns that night,
Oh, yeah, HBO is smart because they realize that's a night where very few channels air new programming, so they kind of took it over as their premiere night, and it's worked out well for HBO so far. I know Starz is doing the same thing, probably just because HBO does it, because they air American Gods on Sunday nights.
Yeah, that's kind of, Sunday nights kind of become the night for the, like the, not just premium channels, but like the premium content, like that's when, that's when AMC has all their shows are on Sunday night. So when Breaking Bad was on, it was always on Sunday night, and, when, you'd have, Walking Dead is going to be, when it comes back, Sunday nights, HBO shows Sunday nights. American Gods is on Sunday right now. Twin Peaks, when it's coming back on Showtime, Sunday nights, that's like the premium time for that. And then on network TV, you have a few people that kind of compete in there with like Fox, where they have all their animated shows on Sunday. That's when they have The Simpsons and Family Guy and stuff. And then you have ABC, which has like Once Upon a Time and stuff.
Yeah.
Which that's coming up in the news later too.
Oh yeah, there's some big news about Once Upon a Time actually.
Yeah, we'll get to that later, but some other shows shows that are officially picked up now. The Dangerous Book for Boys was picked up by Amazon. This is based on a book and is produced by Bryan Cranston, the star of Breaking Bad. So,
that's nice.
This is something that they had announced he had gotten the rights for, and it was like a passion project for him, I guess. So, that got picked up officially. You mentioned the animated Deadpool series. This is coming to FXX, written by Donald Glover and his brother Stephen Glover. So, that's exciting. Donald Glover is a great writer. I think a lot of people, they think of him as like, oh, Community, or like, now Atlanta, and, they see like his rap career and stuff, but he was a writer on 30 Rock, before that. So he's a skilled comedy writer, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And he's on that geeky side, which means it's gonna work well for...
Yeah, it's gonna work out. It's gonna be good. I think. I have high hopes.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool. Amazon picked up a series called Carnival Row that's supposed to be like a neo-Victorian fantasy series, so that's interesting. We'll have to see what that is. We talked about Sci-Fi picking up Krypton. Sci-Fi also picked up a series called Happy, which I'm more excited about than Krypton. It's about an ex-cop hitman who sees a relentlessly positive blue-winged horse.
That's
He's
funny.
like hallucinating this very happy horse, like a My Little Pony character almost, or something that he's like hallucinating. So that sounds awesome. It's Christopher Molina. It's in it. He was in we'd know him best, different people know him from different things, but for us, I think we're gonna know him best for Wet Hot American Summer. So that's gonna be kind of a fun one. And then a big one is The Gifted, which has been officially picked up by Fox. They released a trailer for it, which, doesn't show you a lot, but this is the X-Men Connected series, from Bryan Singer and Matt Nix. And Matt Nix is the creator of Burn Notice. So we'd mentioned Burn Notice earlier, so, he's working on this.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, this is like an X-Men Connected series. It's about like a family, and one of the kids in the family turns out to be a mutant, and they're like running from people that are chasing them.
Hopefully it can be as good as Legion, but we'll see, I guess.
It's gonna be a very different kind of show than Legion.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, quality-wise.
It's a network show. It's gonna have a little bit of a procedural edge to it, The family's gonna hook up with an attractive female police officer to solve crimes.
Yeah,
Will they
right?
want the chemistry? The whole family and this one female detective.
Oh my god.
Those are shows that got picked up. Then we have, Once Upon a Time. The news here is that they're planning to do like a soft reboot for season 7.
Yeah, I guess they're rebooting it somehow. I have no idea what the plan is, but like, they want to focus on...
They're rebooting to focus on the characters that are already the main characters of the show.
Yeah, that makes no sense, because they're like, it's like 4 characters, so it's Emma, it's Mr. Gold, Hook, and and Regina, which is the characters they want to focus on in the reboot. And the other interesting thing is, there was a story out that the actress Jennifer Morrison, who
plays Emma,
she's looking to exit Once Upon a Time with this.
Oh, she's
season.
Officially exited now.
Oh, so she officially left.
Yeah, she's officially left. She said that she's left room to come back to do a single episode in season 7 if they need her. So, like, if they need to do an episode to explain why she's gone,
so they
then
don't
she'll
even
do
have
an episode.
Her for this reboot, which the reboot was said to focus on her,
which would make it like not make sense for Hook.
Yeah, so Hook's
why is she gonna be there and she's not?
His wife disappeared. That doesn't make sense. Like, oh, why didn't you go with your wife? Oh, magic, timey-wimey stuff. That's gonna be the excuse. But it's like, okay. Again, it makes me wonder what's going on with this show. Your main star just left, so why not just end it? I know they renewed it, but now would be a good time to just end it instead of trying to do like this weird reboot.
If you are gonna do a soft reboot, go in a different direction.
Yeah,
like why would you soft reboot with the same cast, with with like the same main cast.
And what worries me about this
because
is
those are like the main cast people anyway.
None of the fairy tale characters were mentioned, like Snow White and Prince Charming were not mentioned. Name anybody except for Regina, Hook, and Mr. Gold. Not mentioned. Certainly...
Yeah, her son, not mentioned.
Yeah, her son wasn't mentioned. This is going to be about Hook and Regina fighting. I have no idea what this is going to be about. Like...
Yeah, I think they've kind of lost a lot of their creative mojo on that show. I think it's a good time to end. They just did a storyline, I think. I stopped watching it, but from what I've heard, they just did a storyline where Lyra's like, another curse put on the town. So it's like, it's like curse number 17.
That happens like every season. That happened like every...
Happens like multiple times a season.
Yeah. There's another curse on the town. It's like, okay, yeah. Nobody cares.
Yeah, it's about time to walk away on that one.
Yep. Unless
and then
the idea they have is like so mind-blowingly amazing, which I doubt it is by any measure. Yeah,
it's not going to be.
It's time to end it.
Yeah. And then the other piece of news is that Sci-Fi is going to be rebranding starting officially on June 19th. This is kind of correlating with their 25th anniversary of being a channel. They have a new logo, and they're said that their focus is going to be on sci-fi fantasy. So kind of like what they were supposed to be all along. I mean, to their credit, they have been making a lot of really good moves in that direction. They started kind of with 12 Monkeys, which is a pretty good series, like one of the only time travel series still around. They did a pretty good job with that, and then they ordered Killjoys and Dark Matter, which were both pretty good shows, and then they just went hog wild and ordered The Expanse and Magicians, which were like top tier stuff in both fantasy and sci-fi.
In both fantasy and sci-fi. And then they've done some crap around that stuff too.
Van Helsing and
Wynonna Earp.
But they seem to be kind of making a move in that direction even further. They have a new logo. You mentioned hideous.
Oh, it's awful. It's one of the worst.
It does look bad, but at least one thing I can say is that it looks like a sci-fi logo now. Whereas like the last logo looked like this very like
the last
neutered,
logo was horrible too. What happened to you? Somebody showed like their original logo, which was really nice, very smooth, very classy, and it had like
it's just like the ring of Saturn,
the ring of Saturn, and that kind of conveyed, that was enough to convey this is a science fiction network. It's like when you see Saturn, then you're like, oh yeah, you get it. I don't even see how this logo conveys it's a science fiction network. First of all, sci-fi is spelt wrong.
Yeah, it's still, they're not going to change that. The reason they changed that in the first place is because they can trademark it.
Right.
They can't trademark sci-fi, like
that's true.
SCI-FI. They can't trademark that, but they can trademark sci-fi SYFY.
You know what reminds me of it? Kind of reminds me of like the Disney XD logo a little bit. Although maybe
it does. Yeah, now that you say it.
Yeah.
It's a similar font. So it's just a font. That's all the logo is. It's just a font. I'd say it has a sci-fi look because it looks like a sci-fi-ish font, I guess.
Ungodly neon yellow
looks like
color.
Something that might be, not from the color, but it looks like something that might be printed on a robot or something. I guess. That's the best I can say about it.
Apple wouldn't print
But at least they're making a shift to focus more on, with their branded identity on sci-fi and fantasy. Right. Which is good, because for a while it was like there was wrestling and then it was like ghost shows and stuff.
Oh yeah. it was ghost shows. I almost said it was constant reruns of Cops, but that was G4 actually.
Yeah. But let's move on. Let's talk about something exciting. Let's talk about American Gods. Before we actually go into the episode itself, I just want to say another piece of news. American Gods was renewed for a second season. Yay!
Yay! Awesome. Go Bryan Fuller.
2 seasons. It ties most of Bryan Fuller's shows now.
2 seasons of the movie. Let's see if it can make it to 4 seasons. If he can make it to 4 seasons, that'll be like the king of Bryan Fuller shows.
Yeah, if he can do 3 seasons, he'll match Hannibal If he can do 4, then he'll have reached his peak.
But then again, you know what? This is unusual because normally we're sitting there, we're forced to sit there fretting, chomping on our fingernails to the last possible second to know if a Bryan Fuller show is getting renewed or not. I think NBC really loved to torture us with Hannibal status by not announcing it when they announced all their other renewals and cancellations. You know, they really loved torturing the fan base of that show with that. Or so it seemed like it, at least.
It's like all the shows that have huge fan bases but don't do well always end up having that. Veronica Mars was like that, you know.
So it's so weird to have a Bryan Fuller show and not be worried about its second season or its next season, like so early into its run. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, it's already been renewed? I can have confidence that there's going to be more? But this doesn't compute. This is a Bryan Fuller show. They can't be that confident in it. God damn it. I don't know what this feeling is.
What's going on? I don't understand.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the episode itself.
Oh my
so the
God,
episode,
this was amazing. This was...
Secret of Spoons is the name of the episode.
This was
Let's
incredible.
start with the opening scene.
This made me want episode 3, like, to be on Amazon right away. Like, I was, like, looking for it. I was like, okay, where's episode 3 now? I need this in my life.
So I talked about in my quick impressions that, like, in this episode, we're kind of getting this format now. We're kind of starting to realize what the format of the show is, because you can see the format similarities to the first episode. So that goes, oh, okay, so this is a thing now.
So it's going to be a thing until Bryan Fuller and company decide it's not a thing, which they can capriciously do at any time.
Yeah.
But yeah, but
with every episode starting with this, like, coming to America scene, where we see, like, how a god made it to America.
Right. They basically introduce us to one of the gods at the beginning of each episode. You know, it's what it is. Episode 1, we were introduced to Odin, or how Odin arrived in America. Not necessarily him, because, you know, they didn't want to show, you know, who Odin was, because there's sort of an air of mystery to Mr. Wednesday that would instantly get spoiled if they were, like, up front, oh, this is Odin. Yeah. But with
in the book, I guess that went, like, all the way to the end of the book.
Oh, really?
That was like a surprise at the end of the book, but I mean, I haven't read it, so I don't know, but that's what I've heard. I think people that are really into mythology would know right away, because Wednesday is named after Odin.
There's all kinds of winking references to Odin, you know. It's like
the glass eye,
I think Neil Gaiman knew that people who are clued into the mythology would know, and that people who weren't as clued into the mythology probably would be guessing until the end who the hell he was.
Yeah. Well, like I said, like Wednesday itself, the day is named after Odin.
Yes. But not a lot of people know
July
that.
is named after Julius Caesar, and, you know, October is named after Octavius. It's, Wednesday is named after Odin. It's like Woe Day or something. It's like, which, you know, then turned into Wednesday. So, but in this episode, we're
introduced to, Mr. Nancy.
Yeah.
And this is quite different because instead of, like, with Mr. Wednesday where there's the mystery surrounding him, they're pretty comfortable with showing us up front exactly who Mr. Nancy is and being up front. There's no mystery surrounding him in terms of who he is or what his identity is. I read that this scene doesn't happen in the books. This was a complete invention of the show, a total show invention, but damn, is it cool. I actually read that the Mr. Nancy's introduction in the books was a lot more low key and unexciting than this.
Well, I read on Twitter, cause I was reading Twitter when the episode was airing, and, you know, not when I was watching it, cause I'd already watched it, but, like when the episode was being broadcast, you know, the creators of the show and a lot of the actors in it will tweet, and, you know, they put up artwork and concept art and stuff. But when that was all happening, Bryan Fuller said that when, Orlando Jones, who is playing Mr. Nancy in this, did that speech on his first take, like he got like a standing ovation from like all the cast and crew.
Wow. No.
Like, immediately after finishing.
I can see
Because it's just this powerful speech he's giving, basically telling these slaves, you're already dead, be angry.
Yes, be angry, rise up against your oppressors. Very, it's a very cool scene, a very cool introduction for Mr. Nancy. I did see some criticism of the scene online from people who were saying that they changed Mr. Nancy's character in this scene, or that they're like, oh, well, Mr. Nancy's supposed to be a trick. One criticism was Mr. Nancy's supposed to be a trickster god, not a vengeance god. I guess this completely changes his character. Oh well. And I'm like,
well, in a sense, he basically tricked all the slaves.
Yeah.
He tricked them into getting so worked up that they gave him power and then burned the ship down, and he rode the wreckage to America.
Right.
So, in a way, he did use trickery, you know?
And you also think there's the context too, that gods, a big thing for gods, especially old gods, is sacrifice. They're big on the concept of sacrifice. They love it. And you gotta think that, you know, that he spits out that line towards the end when the one slave has reservations about burning down the ship, and Mr. Nancy says, you're already dead, why not die a sacrifice to like a greater cause?
To something bigger, a greater cause.
Yeah, why not die? He uses that word sacrifice, and it kind of can be interpreted to be like, you know, be a sacrifice to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know.
And that's pretty much what it is, you know, and so, it was an awesome scene. It was shot beautifully, like the whole show is. I like the cutting back and forth between him doing that and you seeing like the spider that also represents him.
Yes.
It was very cool.
It was very cool. It was very awesome scene. Another notable thing about the scene though is how he appears. He appears in a more modern day clothing. You know, it's very anachronistic because he's on a slave ship in the 1600s and he's wearing a zoot suit, you know? He's and he speaks about the future events, like he has knowledge of what's going to happen in the future, which also I think blindsided people, and it makes you quite wonder the nature of the gods. Are the gods all knowing? Can they see the future? Do they exist outside of time itself?
And in mythology, it's not uncommon for certain gods to have some level of foresight. You know, we talk about Odin. Odin in Norse mythology has some semblance of foresight. He sees the future, you know? Like, all of kind of Norse mythology is basically the gods all knowing what their fates are.
Right,
you know?
Right, that's true. Yeah.
It's all about knowing Ragnarok is coming, and everybody knows, like, oh, Loki's gonna betray this person, he's going to kill this guy, you know? Like, everything's, like, plotted out. Like, they all know their fates, and they're, like, going towards it anyways. So, you know, the idea of foresight with mythological figures isn't exactly new, you know?
Right.
I think it makes sense in the context of the show.
I think it does too.
I liked that contrast of it, of this like slave ship and these people, and here he comes, you know, American vernacular and in a zoot suit, you know, like you said, speaking about what they have coming in their future. I think it really works. So I really dug it. I really liked that opening scene. Again, like I said, beautifully shot. The shot of the boat, like, burning and the mast falling over was gorgeous.
Oh yeah, it was just gorgeous. Great scene. Really got me pumped for the rest of the episode, you know.
Makes you want to see him in the present.
I really do want to see him again. Like, that was one of the big reasons I was so anxious for the third episode, because I want to see more of this character, especially in the context of what's actually going on in the show, you know.
Mm-hmm. And there is a whole other book that Neil Gaiman wrote about this character, about this god.
Again, I heard criticisms that, you know, there was concern online expressed that, oh, did they just change Mr. Nancy's character so much that Nancy Boys is now impossible to be adapted? They said, I don't see how they can adapt.
Never say never.
I don't see how they can adapt. That happened
with Hannibal
Nancy
so
Boys
many times.
With this version of that character, you know?
Look at what Bryan Fuller did with Hannibal. There's so many occasions where, like, they do something that's like, oh, okay, so they're doing this. That means that they're not going to do that. Oh, they did do it later, but they just did it in a slightly different way, you know?
Right.
That happened a few times. You know, like, for example, example with Freddie Lowndes' character, you know?
Yeah.
Where they did the fake wheelchair burning scene that was like a call out to the actual character's death, and then they, you know, like they work a wreck around it. It's Bryan Fuller is really good at like weaving these things in.
Yeah, you didn't know how they were going to do the Freddie Lowndes stuff, you know, when it came time to do Red Dragon, and then Bryan Fuller, you know, he tweaked it a little bit, but he found a way to still do it.
And that's the thing is he's really good at doing that, at like pushing something off in a way you don't expect, and then thinking like, oh, okay, that's done, and then circling back to it in a different way that you also didn't expect. And he did that masterfully on Hannibal, and I have no reason to think he won't do the same here.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's premature to even talk about spinoffs anyway, so, but, you know.
Well, I like, my thinking is that they wouldn't do it as a spinoff, that it would be like integrated into the show.
Integrated
like
into
at
the
some
show
point.
itself. Right.
Yeah.
Bryan Fuller said season 1 just encompasses a third of, like, the novel anyway. We're not doing the entire novel in one season, according to Bryan Fuller.
And they have a far-reaching plan for it, because Neil Gaiman said that the book he's writing right now, which is the true sequel to American Gods.
Yeah.
The, like, actual sequel to it.
Oh.
Is going to be like I think he said like season 5 material.
Damn.
So like he basically was hinting that like they're like plotting stuff in that's in his book that he's already, there are things that Bryan Fuller was talking about doing, and Neil Gaiman was like, hold off, kind of like in a George R. R. Martin and Dan and Dave kind of way.
You're right.
I was saying, hold off, I got something coming up with that in the next book.
Except
you know?
Neil Gaiman's book will get done. But
hopefully. We'll see. They have a plan for this going forward that's multiple seasons, not just like a few, you know? Like I said, Neil Gaiman was talking about season 5 material for like what his book, the next book's gonna be, so it shows you that they have like 4 seasons kind of plotted, you know? At least to some extent.
Right.
Next scene we got Shadow talks to Wednesday after, you know, the events of the last episode were ended with Shadow, with all of, Technical Boy's minions basically exploding into pools of blood. And then, Shadow is basically, he's got these injuries, so he's getting them treated and sewn up. He goes and sees Wednesday. He talks to him. I love Wednesday's line of like, you know, you're an injury to you is an insult to me. It's like, don't think that just because I'm not reacting that I'm not angry, right, or that I don't have a plan. So yeah, so they talk, they kind of work that part out. Then Shadow goes back to his house to kind of pack everything up. He tells Wednesday he's gonna be in about another day before they leave, and so he's packing up. He looks through his wife's phone, finds the chat log between her and his best friend Robbie, sees a dick pic. Lots of dick in this episode, by the way.
yeah.
Lots. You notice quite a few dick moments in this episode. But yeah, so he sees a dick pic, he leaves with Mr. Wednesday. They take off, and then we get another Bilquist scene. So again, with this kind of structure, we kind of have this other storyline, seemingly unconnected, at least so far, where we continue on with Bilquist. So in the last episode, we had Bilquist devouring this man with her nether regions. Now we kind of see like where people go when they're devoured by her. It's like a nebula inside of her, and they're just kind of floating in space with erections. Yeah, the space.
Well, this is where we get our next show from Bryan Fuller, Space Penis.
Yes, space cock.
Coming soon to CW.
So we see the guy in like an orgasmic state, just kind of floating in space with a erect cock, as Bilquist goes about devouring more people, men, women, all ages and nationalities, or not nationalities, all ages and ethnicities.
Yes.
And then she looks at some jewelry and kind of envisions herself having worn it. She's in like a museum kind of thing.
I assume she was at an exhibit, and that statue was a statue of her, and that those were jewels probably used in the worship of her. That jewelry was used in the worship. She probably considers it her property, and that's what she's doing there.
So that's kind of what we're seeing with Bilquis, still seemingly unattached. I mean, you can see where it's going to connect, because you kind of have this conflict rising between old and new gods, and she's an old god, so obviously she's going to fit in somewhere along those lines. But so far, it's kind of not really connected. There's no like real strong connected material.
Again, it's her part of the story is very vague. We don't know what's going to happen. Even the scene was kind of vague. There was no dialogue. She didn't speak, at all during it. Like, I like that was kind of refrained. I like that was kind of restrained. A lesser show probably would have had her like doing a whole bunch of exposition or something, in that scene.
Yeah.
And there was none. So, again, that's how you're being guided by the hand of a master craftsman.
Indeed. So we go back to the main story. Shadow and Mr. Wednesday, they stop in like a diner, and Mr. Wednesday sends Shadow off to do some shopping. He wants Shadow to get gifts for the people that he's visiting. I like the conversation he had with him, where he's basically saying like, oh, and just make sure you don't steal more than this much.
Yeah, right.
And Shadow's like, I'm not going to steal from you. And he's like, well, then how are you going to help me if you can't provide for yourself?
Yeah.
This whole idea that he just like, he expects him to steal
I
from
like
him.
how one thing we learned about Mr. Wednesday is he doesn't like cell phones. So he gives Shadow this shopping list and $1,000 to go purchase it. He sends Shadow into like one of these big box stores, to get everything they need. Shadow actually ends up coming across one of the new gods, Media, who reveals herself to him in the form of I Love Lucy. And I didn't realize this watching it, but Media is actually played by Gillian Anderson.
Yes, Gillian Anderson of the X-Files, and she was also
Hannibal.
Here she is playing Media through the guise of Lucy Ricardo of I Love Lucy.
Yes. It's a cool scene when Shadow realizes the TV is talking to him.
God, she looks so much like Lucy, too. It's crazy.
It is. It's nuts. And it's funny because up until this point, Shadow had been kind of brushing off the weirder stuff, kind of like dismissing it outright, but this is fine. It's this he can't brush off or dismiss. It's
pushing it his limits.
It's pushing it to his limits. Yeah. She basically makes a plea to Shadow for Shadow to join her, to join the new gods and ditch Wednesday. She takes a different tact from Technical Boy, which Technical Boy's tact with Shadow was to just be very aggressive and try to browbeat information out of him. Media takes a very different tact, probably one she's used to, which is to seduce Shadow over and to convince him to join them
by offering to show Lucy's tits.
Yes. She makes a comment about the nature of the worship of what she thrives on. She says she thrives on attention, whereas the old gods demand sacrifice. She calls time and attention better than lamb's blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That people worship their screens, and that she's the god that represents that. She's media. She's like the god of like celebrity and screens and television and movies, and whereas like Technical Boy is like the god of gadgets, she's like the god of content.
Yeah, she's the god of content. So the only sacrifice she demands is people's attention.
Yeah. It's a really cool scene just because of the way they did the whole I Love Lucy aesthetic, how well they matched that it looked like it was just like this episode playing in the store on the TVs, and then you find out that it's, this god talking to him.
Yes. So this episode we're actually introduced to not 2, but 3 new gods.
At least.
At least.
Because there's other stuff too, like other figures that you could say, kind of godlike,
Right.
not necessarily. For instance, when Shadow gets back from doing his shopping, he runs into a guy with dark sunglasses and sees his eyes burning and glowing.
Who is that guy?
Well, the credits list him as the Jinn.
Oh,
That's all it says.
Huh. I know there's a lot of, there's a lot of gods in this that aren't mentioned up front in the marketing, that appear in this.
Yeah, so, that's the figure with the glowing eyes. So after that, Shadow's basically talking to Wednesday about how he thinks he's losing his mind. Wednesday says a great line about one, might ask you to make greater sacrifices than going a little mad. So they take off and they're going to their first stop, which is in Chicago. That's where, as you mentioned, Mr. Wednesday doesn't like cell phones and doesn't like main roads. He tells Shadow, never the main roads, always take the side roads, that you're more likely to come across fortuitous chance, you're just gonna run into, having something happen. We see Mr. Wednesday blowing on a little flower thing and petal kind of things flying off into the sky and sparking into lightning in the clouds, which was really cool. And then Shadow had offered him a cell phone to kind of keep in touch with him, picked up some burners, and Odin, or Mr. Wednesday, threw him out the window of the car, said he doesn't want cell phones. This can play a little bit into his personality as a character, but also you have to assume that this is also playing into the fact that he's in war with the new gods. And a cell phone is one of the strong identifiers of at least Technical Boy, and if not media as well.
Right, exactly. It's at least Technical Boy's domain.
Mm-hmm. So
he also takes Shadow's cell phone from him and chucks it out the car.
Mm-hmm. And they throw those out the car and they head off to Chicago, where they go and they visit. Wednesday and Shadow visit the Zoria sisters. So one of them played by Cloris Leachman, famous actress from countless roles.
Oh yeah.
She's kind of the main Zoria sister. Another, we said, another semi kind of god figure, kind of god, kind of not, maybe, I don't know. Her and her sisters are they're I believe the Greek sisters of Fate, if I remember correctly, something like that. But we see her and we see one of her sisters, played by Martha Kelly from Baskets, who is obsessed with, I guess, romance novels, which is really kind of, cute and endearing in a little funny way. That they have all the gifts they got them.
One cute moment is when Mr. Wednesday gives her that romance novel because she loves him, and then she sees Shadow, and she sees Shadow, and it's like one of those characters just jumped right out of her romance novels into her life. She has this look on her face, oh.
Yeah.
So a very small character moment there, but I thought that was pretty funny.
So they, Mr. Wednesday's brought the gifts for them, alcohol and all this stuff. Then we find out kind of the real reason he's there isn't so much for these sisters, but for the man that the sisters are living with, who is, Chernobog, another god, as played by Peter Stormare, who is in lots of stuff.
Yeah.
The Fargo movie, Prison Break, Constantine movie.
Oh yeah, he
played the devil in the Constantine movie.
Oh yeah.
The VW commercials where he says, "Oh snap."
Yeah. Yeah. He's playing Chernobog, which is interesting because, it's based in, Slavic mythology, but he's supposed to be sort of an evil god, according to mythology, or at least the bad one. His name means black god.
Yeah.
The only sources for him are Christian sources, which interpret him as a dark and accursed god.
Yeah, they call him the god of evil, I believe, in the show descriptions and stuff.
Yeah, and he has has a brother in mythology too, who's supposed to be like, like the light god, or, like his opposite,
Which he makes a good reference to in the episode when he meets Shadow.
Yeah.
Because he points out that Shadow's black.
Yeah, if he points out, he uses that too. Yeah, he uses Shadow's race to start to opine on his own situation, which is, he says, he opines that there are shades,
Mm-hmm.
and he complains about his brother being more popular than he was, because as Chernobog says, he had dark hair, his brother had light hair, his brother was probably more attractive, so he's complaining, he's like, and it sounds a lot like he's jealous his brother was popular and he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
But he makes a case that, people considered him evil, but he's not really evil. It's just that it's just bad PR,
Yeah.
It's just bad.
He says that, he went to New York and nobody knew him, and then he went to Chicago, and in Chicago he's like a bad memory.
Yeah.
Because Chicago just had the more of the Slavic population. So you're gonna have the people that kind of know of him but don't really enjoy him.
What's interesting, he mentions that his brother didn't make it over to America. His brother is still in the old country, he says, which is interesting to me.
Yeah. Season 3. No, it's
Yeah, right? But he has a lot of resentment towards his brother anyway, so.
He has a lot of resentment in general. He's pretty rude and
yeah, he is pretty
everyone.
Rude. He tells Wednesday to get out of his apartment. He throws a lamp at him.
I love the cat. No, he threw that bottle of alcohol, I think, at him. He had drunk
that's
most
right,
of
it was
it.
a bottle. I thought it was a lamp. I don't know where I got that from.
And I love Wednesday kind of casually dodging it and then continuing talking cheerfully. No problem.
No problem. Well, the part of it is there's this war coming. Obviously, Mr. Wednesday, his entire goal is to get the old gods together to fight this war against the new gods. And so he's trying to recruit Chernobog. Mr. Wednesday says he can't do this without him, implying that Chernobog is a pretty powerful god that he needs on his side for this fight. Chernobog has zero interest in this fight, or this battle.
Mm-hmm.
He has zero interest in going to fight for Mr. Wednesday, so that becomes a problem. In fact, the fact that he doesn't seem to even like Mr. Wednesday for a second.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But after talking to Shadow for a while, he ends up deciding to play a game of checkers against Shadow.
He spends a lot of time talking about his job, killing cattle for slaughter, so
and how he used to have to wield a heavy hammer.
He had a heavy hammer, a sledgehammer that he used to kill cattle. He describes how he used it and how he killed them in great detail.
And now they have that bolt gun thing that.
Oh yeah, which he derides. He says now
that the guy in
idiot can do it.
No Country for Old Men used.
Yeah, he's like, now any idiot can do that job. He mocks it. He was very proud of his ability to kill cows with the sledgehammer. This becomes a plot point
to swing it down and see the blood at dawn.
Yeah.
The morning blood that he cherishes.
Eventually, Chernobog becomes interested in Shadow Moon. He becomes interested in Shadow Moon, and he decides to play a game of chess with Shadow Moon, or checkers.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing checkers with Shadow Moon, and then that's when
they're playing checkers because everyone's equal in checkers.
Yeah, everyone's equal in
and
checkers.
That's a big prison game too, which they reference, is that checkers is a really popular game in prisons. And they talk about that as well, that, Shadow Moon uses that. When Chernobog asks him if he plays checkers, and Shadow Moon's like, well, I was in prison. So it's yes, I know how to play checkers. And Chernobog talks about how the difference between, checkers and chess is that in checkers everyone's equal, everyone's the same piece. And he challenges him to play checkers, and he says, and I'll be black.
Yes.
They're playing checkers, very tense game of checkers, interrupted when Chernobog makes a bet with him after pulling out his hammer and showing Shadow his hammer. And as he's like turning the hammer in his hands, like blood's like pouring from it down his hands. Another use of that high shutter speed to give that blood like a really kind of unnatural look to it.
Right.
As it's kind of pouring over his hands. Looks really cool. And then they make the bet, which is that if Shadow wins, then Chernobog will go with Mr. Wednesday. But if Chernobog wins, then he's basically, Shadow's sold his head to him. Like he'll smash his head open with a hammer in the morning.
Yes.
And get his morning blood that he loves so much. Shadow agrees to this basically because he just doesn't give a shit anymore. He's so like, all this shit happening around him is just so insane. His wife's dead. His friend's dead. They were apparently cheating, on him with each other. So he's in this state where he's just like, yeah, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I'm gonna play. And he plays. Mr. Wednesday says, you don't have to, but it's clearly like, but you should, you know? Yeah, it goes through. Chernobog starts playing. I love the use of like just how kind of dirty Chernobog is, and he's like smoking, and as he's smoking, like the ash on his cigarette's like really long, and it's dropping all over the pieces, and I love the way that just set to the mood of the scene.
Right.
And Chernobog is singing this song that the title of the episode comes from, The Secret of Spoons, about somebody using a spoon to stir a pot or something like that. It's this old folk song, and he's just mopping the floor with Shadow Moon.
He's mopping the floor. In fact, he beats Shadow Moon, which means...
And that's how the episode ends, yeah.
With the threat that Shadow Moon's gonna have his skull crashed in. So, we'll have to... That is just one hell of a place to end the episode. It's like, damn it. So now we'll have to wait for Sunday to see the next episode.
Thankfully, the episodes go up basically at midnight on Sunday.
Yes, thankfully.
They go up for anybody who uses the app or website or on demand. It's available before. That's actually been very useful for me because I can watch the episode ahead, record my impressions, do all that stuff, get that ready, and have it uploaded before the episode actually airs. So it's been useful for me, but it's also going to be useful just because I'm not going to be able to wait.
Right, exactly. It's useful for me because, it goes up that night, so I don't have to wait for the episode. I can't wait. I watched this episode Sunday night, and I will watch the next one Sunday night.
Yeah.
I like that Starz does that. I like that HBO does that. I wish more services would do that, but oh well.
HBO does it with some stuff. They don't do it with Game of Thrones just because they want everybody on the same page with Game of Thrones, you know? They don't want spoilers hitting out.
Right.
But they've done things like that before where they put up the second episode like immediately after the first one aired or something, so that like if you wanted to keep watching it, you could watch the second episode, would be on demand right away.
Right.
So they've done that kind of stuff before. But that's it for our discussion of American Gods this week. We're going to be talking about again next week. There's 8 episodes this season, 2 down, 6 to go. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about next week as well, if you come back for that podcast. We also are going to talk right now about what's coming up in the next week. It's not a lot. So Friday, May 12th, 2017, I Love Dick on Amazon, and with an E on Netflix, which is the Anne of Green Gables remake. Master of None Season 2 hits Netflix. And then on Wednesday, May 17th, Downward Dog comes to ABC. And on Friday, May 19th, 2017, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt returns for its 3rd season on Netflix. I'm looking forward to that. And 12 Monkeys returns on Sci-Fi, and that's actually doing kind of an interesting thing. They're airing like 6 episodes or 4 episodes, something like a bunch of episodes that night. And then they're like the next night it airs, they're airing a bunch more. So it's like they're just kind of burning through that season, which is its final season. But they're like burning through it like in this kind of weird binge way. So it's kind of interesting. It shows they kind of want to get through it because Sci-Fi's bought so many shows now that they have their lineup to go show, but they're also kind of embracing this idea of like binging, you know? So that's going to be with 12 Monkeys. And that's it for what's coming up in the week ahead. You can reach me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can reach Will. He is at Voxel Hero. Check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, as well as our site, TVEnthusiast.com. You can subscribe to the podcast through any major podcast client like iTunes or Pocket Cast. And the entire backlog of our podcast is available on our YouTube channel. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this podcast, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@TVEnthusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast for more